How's everybody doing? We feeling good? This is going to be an awesome panel, maximizing time with artists. I unfortunately am not that great with artist interviews, so I wasn't good enough to be on it, so I bought the sponsorship instead. We're really excited to be here. Obviously, make sure you get to the Ryman for the UMG lunch today. If Mojo's in the room, you can't leave early and get a good spot in line. You got to stay for all the panels before you leave. So let's introduce one of my favorite people from Red Street Records, moderating today's panel on maximizing time with artists. Give it up for Alex Valentine.
Praise me, yes, praise me. Let's bring our panelists up here. We're going to do, instead of introducing them this way, we have this really fancy way to do this. It's super professional. So come on out here, guys, and then I'll tell them who you are when you get out here. Super professional. This is going to blow your mind, CRS. Fellas, have a seat.
That was lackluster.
Thanks, Buzz. Appreciate it.
Oh, not you, them.
Yeah. Said every PD I ever worked for.
We're getting there.
Okay, first of all, just some housekeeping. Julia Lapidi was supposed to be on our panel today. Please just throw some thoughts, and maybe if you know her or if you came to see her today, shoot her a note. She was under the weather, couldn't make her flight, and we appreciate her trying till the very last minute, so there's that. There's also an app, the CRS app, and if you have any questions you want to ask, you could do that. You could do that on the app instead of heckling these guys in the middle of what they're about to say. So if we're ready, I think that's all we have as far as housekeeping. Let's start with successful content capture in the following situations. The winners are, no, I'm kidding. We start with Mr. Evan Paul. Watch this. Watch this. This is where that super cool video plays.
I was told not to talk yet.
Here we go. Stand by. No, that's not Evan.
That's me.
It's going to happen for us, I promise you. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong panel. The high anxiety panel is next door. I'm freaking out right now.
With jelly rolls.
That's what happens when you shoot shots before the show.
I'm used to it by now. We do that. That's what the Music Girl Happy Hour is all about. You're awesome on socials. My favorite thing I've seen for you in a long time is the first time you got to experience a bidet.
Yes! I thought it would be like a middle school water faucet. No, it was a finger on a hose pipe. It was a actual spray. The seat was warm. The water was warm. You see my reaction. You know how crazy that was for me?
That's Jelly Roll's review of a bidet.
Yeah, you got to get one. I just can't believe that we're expected to wipe our own ass in America, and they have these things.
Evan Paul, ladies and gentlemen.
That was me.
That wasn't me.
That was me.
That was Buzz Brainerd, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was Evan.
We missed the beginning of that. If you missed it, that was Jelly Roll. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit.
Hey, Buzz, why don't we just start with you, because I think the universe wants to start with you. And let's start with red carpet interviews. We're trying to maximize time with artists. So what are you doing?
First of all, I am not a fan of red carpets. Because one of the things we've done it on ACMs, CMAs, different shows, and it's weird because for us it's usually like 3 hours nonstop talk with no music, which I don't think is what people actually want to hear. But we get some interesting stuff, and I've been lucky enough at SiriusXM where we have a producer and we usually have him in our ear, which is nice because it's rapid fire, and you get lost. I mean, I like to be prepared, but that's impossible to be prepared for. So if you've got somebody to help you out, I know that the label will come up or the representative and hand you a card, but I hate having to look at a card and be reminded, like what their album is and what the tour is and stuff. So if you've got that in your ear, it's good. If you can trust them, I've had our producer in my ear before tell me like an actor from a TV show and tell me the wrong character or something, and then I look like an ass.
Or maybe play the wrong voice start.
Or do that.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's a little different than normal interviews for us because it's about the event. And I'm not a fashionista, so I'm not usually the one who's going to talk about what they're wearing and all that. But it's kind of about the night, and it's kind of quick because it's like they're lined up, and you've got 3 people deep, and then they want to go to the next one. So it's bam, 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 as much as you can, and just try to, keep it flowing. And then there's some downtime as well, which sucks because you might have, I'm usually, on the carpet with like Stormy Warren, and we'll just talk between us, amongst us for a little bit, which nobody really wants to hear. But you've got to fill because we've got 3 hours on this red carpet. So it's probably the most difficult interview, I would think. And if you guys watch the Academy Awards, I don't know if you saw Hugh Grant on the red carpet being interviewed. He was an asshole, and he didn't give any answers or anything like that. And
I work at a half Christian label, by the way.
Okay,
just so
I'm
you
sorry.
know. Go ahead.
He was a jerk. So it's difficult if you run into that. But I think if anybody's on the red carpet, they want to be there. They should be. He didn't want to be. So when somebody puts up a brick wall like that, then you're like, okay, thanks, next. So.
Okay, so there's like 20 setups on the red carpet. So how are you separating yourself? Or are there like tricks of the trade or things that you do to make that moment more memorable so the next time you're visiting with that same person in the studio or on a phoner, they're going to remember that? Anything you do special in your setups?
It just depends. If you're usually on a red carpet, you're at an event and there's a lot going on, so maybe you've got a little bit of history or something's happened the night before or you saw them somewhere. So if you can kind of personalize that a little bit, try to not make it about me but make it about them. So if they're there for a specific, if I see Lainey Wilson on the red carpet and she came to my happy hour the day before and we got something to talk about, or the early winners came out for her category, so she's already won. So yeah, that kind of stuff you just grab a hold of.
You can cuss all you want. It's
Okay.
a country radio seminar.
Yeah, I'm on satellite radio. We can cuss all the time.
Another thing you can do in red carpet situations is when you are with the artist, you have to ask them, obviously, about the event, like Buzz was saying, but use your other questions. Open up with what they want to talk about. Open up with the red carpet, but then use that opportunity to secure audio by asking other questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the red carpet. Bank those and use those later. So you can always sound like you have an important guest on your show, even if you don't that week per se. So if you get 5 minutes with Jason Aldean on the carpet, I mean, me personally, I wouldn't spend more than 30 seconds to a minute on the carpet because a lot of the artists don't like to talk about other artists because they're on different competing labels. You never want to say, well, who do you want to win this award? Because if they mention an artist that's not on their label, there's a lot of politics. So instead of doing that, just move ahead and get other questions. Like we had Jason Aldean at the ACM thing. And I asked him if he's been to every room in his house yet, because it's a huge house. And I've used that. It's evergreen content that I'm able to use all the time. Whereas the red carpet, I can only use that for one time.
Well, you're lucky because you repurpose it or you're recording it to use it later.
Yeah, we record
Like I
it.
said, we're live, and
you.
that's the thing that's really difficult. There's nothing worse than being live. We do that with award shows as well sometimes. We'll broadcast the show live. Every time they go to commercial, they toss to us, and we've got to fill the commercial break.
Yeah.
You're live. So it's like,
Start giving out recipes.
yeah, absolutely.
So, Evan, I want you to get your due today. So this is what Evan sounds like. Live here at CRS.
Our friend Blake Shelton just announced he's putting out a new song, and this is the album art. I wanted to see what you think about his hair.
That's not the new artwork. Come on, man.
This is Blake Shelton.
Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh. I don't know what he's thinking. That's got to be a wig. Or is it an old it might be an old picture. Is he just using an old photo? He really shouldn't be that proud. He should not be that confident. I mean, he is, in my opinion, Blake is he's one of the better singers in our format. I don't think Blake gets enough credit for his singing ability because of his ignorant humor. Sometimes overpowers his as singing. I do think he's one of, but he should never be that confident.
So I'll talk more about that later, but that's something that I like to do where it's like a double artist headline, and I'll get into that more, but that's something that we do a lot.
So, real quick, another reminder, if you have a question on the CRS app, you can ask there. So, Evan, let's take it back to the very beginning. You book the interview, and it's just the old school phoner. What's the first thing you do? Walk us through the basics, which is where we wanted to start, I guess. But
I mean, honestly, the first thing I would do is wonder why it's a phoner. I would say, hey, are they on tour or something?
do you want it? Like, would you refuse?
Yeah, I mean, no, you don't refuse anything, but it's the audio is just it's not the only thing with a phoner is I feel if the listener can understand who the person is just by talking, that's how you know it's going to be successful. It's hard to capture that with a phoner per se. Not everybody sounds the same on the phone, but the first thing I do is I hit their social media because everybody is getting sent the same copy points, and the copy points are essentially written by the same person that wrote the latest Wikipedia article, updated the wiki. It's the same stuff. So I like to get on their social media and dig in there. That's where you can kind of create your own news. And it's not just people that they tag or what they do, but in country, they always comment on each other's stuff. So there's a way in right there. Like, hey, I'm talking to Chris Jansen. I saw on your Instagram, Jason Aldean said that your hair looks like a beehive. What's up with that? And then that can lead you back into
I agree, because if somebody's posting stuff on socials, it's because they want it out there and it's something they're interested in. So like you said, everybody's got everything that's going on tour-wise, album-wise, single-wise. But like the piece that we aired of mine with Jelly Roll, he spent a long time on social media talking about his bidet. And we did a good interview. We covered everything, and when I brought that up, you can see their face light up, right?
Yeah.
So now their face lights up and like, oh, I haven't had a chance to talk about this, and then he turns it into a monologue for like 3 minutes.
Yep.
So it's something they care about if they posted it.
Yeah, and their representatives don't necessarily put that in their one sheet. They're not going to say, like, this guy, sprays his butt. I don't know.
Again, Evan.
They should.
I mean, they should,
Should.
But I will say this. There have been a couple artists where if you dig deep into their copy points, there's a surprise in there. Like, I think it was Nate Smith. His management wrote that his voice sounded like Velvet Thunder or something, and he didn't know that. So I came in, and he came in, and I was like, dude, Velvet Thunder is here, and he was just so confused. And I showed him that, and that was a topic in itself. Like, that was funny.
Okay, so I'm just afraid we're going to run out of time, and B-Dub paid for this, so we work for B-Dub right now. We got to get more compelling content out there. You got 7 minutes with an artist. Buzz, I'll go to you for this one. You got 7 minutes with an artist. Let's say it's a Radio Row kind of thing. What's the most important part of that 7 minutes? What's the most important thing you're going to take from that 7 minutes?
Radio Row is completely different, like Red Carpet for us, because we're compartmentalizing as much as we can. So what the boss tells us is, let's grab small soundbite bits. So if I'm on a Radio Row during, I'm going to try to get 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So it's like boom, 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 answer, reset. Boom, 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 answer, reset. And we play those, on a loop around. We if we're covering ACMs or CMAs. So that's the difference of Radio Row. It's not the in-depth, got him in studio, right, hanging out kind of thing. So for me, that's going to be like, and it's hard to do. It took me a while to do that. But I would ask the question, get the good answer, pause, reset. Let's get 5 of these out of this. That's going to be a lot of radio.
For us, we do something what's called like a supercut at those type of things, where we'll come up with like 3 supercut questions that we'll ask every artist toward the end of it, a funny one, and then they'll put those together for social media.
All right, let's take it in the studio now. Besides vodka and tequila, what's the most important thing you use to set up your studio when you've got an artist coming in? Did I say? Oh, I said that loud.
We always have we have a bottle of something all the time, so that helps a lot.
We do, come to think of it, too.
Yeah, we do.
It kind of sounds like it when I listen, Buzz, honestly.
Evan and I were talking about this, so you can prepare and you can have all the information you need, but this is what we agree on. You have everything, and then you throw it away, because there's nothing worse than watching somebody do an interview where they're reading, and they're not listening, and they're waiting for them to finish so they can ask the next question. If I've got 20 things I could talk about, if I'm locked in and listening, they might say something that leads me to the thing that was 20th on my list. So I go, oh, you know what? Tell me about that.
Yeah.
So you have it, and then you throw it away, and then you have a conversation.
Yeah, I like to do the prep, like Buzz is saying, and steady it and know exactly what's on there, because that's when you can benefit of jumping ahead. Like, oh, well, I didn't plan on talking about this till a long time later, but boom, let's get right into that, you know?
So we're talking about, maximizing time, but let's talk about the show. And when you book an artist, this is a fascinating question that somebody asked me. You've got benchmarks in your shows, obviously. When is that booking, that guest, big enough to where you have to move the benchmark? When do you include the artist in a benchmark? I want each of you guys to talk to that for a second.
I could take this one for like in person, because we like to do sometimes like a game or something with the artist in studio. I mean, it's ranged from everything from Walker Hayes knows how to juggle, so I laid down and he juggled an egg over me, stuff like that, to like we just had Chris Jansen in and we played like a joke off, where it was like they told dumb jokes and whoever was the first to laugh lost. I don't think it's necessarily the size or popularity of the artist as much as the vibe. So like, I'll play a game with Garth Brooks if he comes in, but I'm not going to play a game with Hank Williams Jr. if he comes in. There's a difference in stuff like that. There's people that you need to know, like, hey, let's not do the game with them. Let's get some more answers for these questions.
I agree, and a lot of times, the label, when they're standing there, they'll go, you got 7 minutes, you got 10 minutes or whatever, so all of a sudden you're like, well, that changes everything I had planned.
Yeah.
And I don't care about the size of the artist, like, whatever, I pretty much try to keep everything, pretty much the same conversation. I don't do a lot of benchmarks, but if I was going to do that, I would throw it on at the end, so I'll usually do 2 or 3 solid segments if I can. And then after that, I'll go, hey, one more thing, if I got time. And then I'll throw that in. So if you toss that in at the end, sometimes you get it in there, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
How much research or pre-search to an artist is too much? Like, when do you, you booked a guest. It might not be a household name, but you really want this guest. Are you stalking? Are you, what are you doing to learn about this person before you talk to them?
You can't do too much. I mean, there's a difference between doing it and saying it. So like I said, if you have everything you can possibly find, I'm lucky enough to have interns, not all the time, but I have a producer and an intern. I'll ask them to grab me some stuff. Basically what they're going to give me is bullet points and things like that. So I got all that. And then if I can find more stuff on social media, sometimes I'll watch other interviews, I love to watch other interviews, and you find something that really went well.
Is that more not to ask the same questions or to find out what's top of their mind lately?
I don't mind. I wouldn't ask the same question, but I might broach the same topic. So, I don't think there's a problem with that. If you see an artist being asked something in an interview and it goes really well and it's something they want to talk about, there's a way to go about that and make it different. So you can't have too much. You just don't use it all. You use what's going to be the best for your listeners and what's most relevant.
I agree.
Same?
Yeah, I agree. I think the most appropriate thing, at least for me, is to always just be up on everything that all the artists are doing. That way you just have a constant wallpaper of Like it really helps out at events, red carpet things, like because they bring you random people, you know, like, oh, here's this guy, this guy, this guy, and if you just know, like, oh, he's got an album coming out, oh, he's that, so that all helps out. But again, you just don't want to be too scripted, and you don't want to ask them the same stuff that everybody's asking them. So come up with your own stuff, you know, and your listeners know how you present yourself, so present yourself in an interview the same way. They want to hear how you interact with the artists, and vice versa.
Good thing about that too is you're onto something, because then you've been doing it for a while and the artist gets to know who you are. So if they're coming into your studio to be interviewed by you, they kind of know what to expect.
Yes.
They know your personality, and so they know kind of what it's going to be like.
Yep.
That helps.
I agree.
So I'm trying to get to funniest stories, because I know you got one, and I think you got one too, your funniest moments. But before we do that, I think Joey Tack might have a question from the app. Joey, can you hear me, Joey?
I hear you.
Do you read? Where are you, Joey?
You sound great.
I can't see you, Joey.
I'm right in front of you.
Oh, goodness. There he is.
Right here, Alex. Hey, guys, how do you approach asking sensitive questions of artists?
I think I have a good one about this.
Who asked that? Is there a name to that, Joey? I'm just curious. Who asked?
They're anonymous.
Okay.
They say
So
We worked this out in rehearsal that you were going to do a funny name, but
yeah, some of the audio that I have that I don't know if we were going to get a chance to play it, but I don't like to go too controversial, and I'm not going to like go there if, you know, unless there's a way to go there. Monta loves this. She loved this interview. A while ago, I was able to have John Mayer in the studio. He was playing the Bridgestone. So he came in during my show, and they said, only talk about the music. Only talk about the album. Don't talk about relationships. Don't talk about anything else. Just the music. He came in. He had 10 people with him. They sat there. We talked about the music. I said, hey, in this one song, you know, Never on the Day You Leave, you know, I'm divorced, and I remember the day that we decided we were going to, and I said, it's so funny because the song sums it up. And I told him that story, and then he said, you opened up to me, I'm going to open up to you. And he actually said, but they're not going to write about what you say in People magazine. And it was the first time that he talked about his breakup with Katy Perry. And he went into the story about it, and, you know, it was amazing. Afterwards, everybody in the room, all the 10 people with him, said, are you okay with that? And he said, why wouldn't I be? It was a great conversation. So he signed off on it, and Entertainment Tonight picked up the audio from that night and said, John Mayer was talking about his relationship with Katy Perry. And he told me, he goes, I remember the first time I saw her, there's a line in the song, she'll cut her hair, blah, blah. And it was like, wow. So I didn't ask him. I didn't go there. I gave him the opportunity to go there.
And he took it.
And he took it.
Yeah.
They're not always going to take it.
Right.
But I don't know about you, but I don't really want to go there. But if there's a way to set it up.
Yeah, and a lot of them want to leave the Easter egg. You know, like Chris Jansen has a collaboration coming up on his new album, and we weren't allowed to ask who it was, but I was like, why are you wearing a leather jacket today, man? Like, you rocking? You feel like a rocker? And, you know, he ended up leaving a little egg of what was coming up. And, you know, sometimes they don't come in there wanting to talk about it. And more times out of none, they'll talk about it, and then after maybe be like, can you take that out?
Don't take it for granted, but remember, the people telling you what not to talk about are the label people. It's not the artist.
Right.
So that doesn't give you free reign to ask whatever you want, but just know that there might be an opening there somewhere.
Yeah. And real quick, I wanted to say about the double headline thing I said earlier, just real quick. The way to do a double headline is you talk to one artist and get them to talk about one of their artist friends, and then boom, you have... That headline was, Craig Morgan said this about Blake Shelton. So now you have Blake Shelton fans, Craig Morgan fans, and country artists are all friends, so they love talking about each other. So the more you can double up on that content and talk to them about other country artists, the more noise you can make on the radio and on digital.
you could still put questions into the app, but we got a minute left. Funny story? Did you want to?
My most recent one was not funny, but it's cool. We had Hank Williams Jr. He came in studio not too long ago. He was only doing like a couple interviews, and came in, and he was smoking a cigar, and just the whole room was just like crazy. And they were like, "You gonna let him smoke in here?" I was like, "Yeah. I mean, what am I gonna say?" So like he came in and he's like, "Mind if I smoke my stogie?" And I was like, "Nah, man, nah. You got one for me?" And he didn't say anything. He just got up and walked out. And I was like, "What is going on?" And he went to a briefcase, opened it up, and it was a cigar briefcase. Grabbed one out, cut it, threw it to me, started talking about Elvis and Johnny Cash.
Fire one up?
Yeah, fired it up. We were talking about smoking cigars in the studio with Hank Williams. I saved the cigar. It's in a box in my studio. It's awesome.
And they were just straight cigars, right?
Yeah, it's
Just asking.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I appreciate this time with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you can get on the app and there's more. Joey, did you want to talk to that real quick?
We got a couple more questions. This one comes from Buster M. from South Carolina. He says, what are a couple questions you should avoid because it seems like these are always asked?
You know, I would avoid anything, honestly, controversial in our format. Like, it's just not worth it. You know, chances are if you're going to get somebody that answers something controversial, you're going to have to take it out anyway, and then you're going to ruin your opportunity to get more artists in the future with that label or those representatives. So I've found to not really stir the pot too much.
Yeah, I'm with that too. And like we were saying, just the stuff that's like so obvious. Like, remember the old Saturday Night Live skit with Chris Farley where he was like, "Remember that time you were with the Beatles?"
Yeah.
I mean, just make it a conversation.
Yeah.
It's intimidating sometimes when you're across the table from somebody who you really are a fan of. But the minute that it turns into a conversation, it changes everything.
Yeah.
How would you talk to your friend?
Yeah, I agree.
You guys are incredible. I think that's our time, correct? Joey, that's what the clock says.
We got time for one more.
Oh, okay. Keep them coming.
This question came in. It says, is there a specific way that you warm up artists to make sure things stay real and conversational?
If you can have time, you don't want to waste somebody's time. But if you're standing around, you know, before and you're setting up and you can say a couple of things real quick, like we had, you know, Tim McGraw, the new single, we had him in last week. And beforehand we were talking about, I said, this is crazy because we're coming up on 50th anniversary for CMA Fest, and he started talking about fanfare and how when he had his first single, we were just talking about this. He was at his booth, the Curb booth, and nobody knew who he was. Everybody else left. He was the last guy there. He had to clean up the booth and put it all away, and he was stuck there cleaning it up. And we were laughing, talking about that. And then we started the interview, and toward the end, I brought it back.
Yeah.
Because he told it to me. So that was a great, you know, I didn't know that story, but he told me the story, so I was comfortable bringing it back. So just a light conversation, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of times that can just set the mood. Like, if you're already having a light conversation, you know, just keep it going and just throw all your questions out the window and keep talking about what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I do sometimes. You're talking, and then you go, you know what, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know.
So I got something for you guys. If there is some tension, if you strike a nerve or something, do you chase it or do you back away? Or what tells you to chase it and what tells you to back away?
I had one recently, not too bad, but on like a Radio Row deal where I was just like, obviously this person's going to be here, you're going to be there. What happens if you guys run into each other? And they're, you know, it just kind of, they were like, I'll be fine. I'd never, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, you know, they asked me to like take it out, you know. So I did, whatever.
Yeah,
It's just not worth it. It's just.
It's not worth it. I don't have too many of those situations. I hope that I'm, you know. Yeah. I mean, if they don't want to talk to me, they're going to say no to the ask.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's much of that. But I get that a lot, too. Hey, the label comes over afterwards. Can you take that one part out?
Yeah, and you know, it's just we're part of a machine, and you're not going to beat the machine. You want to be the machine. So you don't want to be that guy that's like, no, I'm not going to take that out. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you want them to come back.
Yeah, you want them to come back, and it's a record label. They have other artists, so it's a given.
Appreciate you having our back on that. Thanks. Joey, are we done now? That clock has been done. All right. That clock's been done for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, we'll keep talking. I got radio guys up here. They won't stop. Come on. I want to thank you all very much for being here. That's Evan Paul. That's Buzz Brainerd. I'm Alex Valentine. Get on the app. You'll see some other. We've got some slides on there and all that. Come stop us if you want. We'll see you guys at Sierras. Have a great rest of the week.